Erica and Sharon are sisters who began their grief journey in 2006 when Erica's 10-year-old son Austin drowned. Together, they participated in a grief education program, were so moved by this experience, they studied and became specialists so they could help the brokenhearted find recovery. In 2015, tragedy struck their family once again when Erica's oldest son Donovan was killed in a motorcycle accident. Erica and Sharon are committed to sharing their experiences of love, loss, and healing through this podcast. Now your grief specialists, Sharon and Erica.
Hey everybody, it is the Healing Starts with the Heart podcast. And guess who's back today?
Yes, I'm finally back. Oh my gosh, it broke my heart to not be with you on the last recordings because I love doing the podcast so much.
How was Vegas?
Vegas was awesome. Kayla had a great birthday weekend. The weather was beautiful. It wasn't too hot. It was just kind of cooling off. So, I mean, we had a great time. I'm glad we went, but we missed you, and I'm sorry I missed recording.
So just a little backstory. Erica took her daughter, Kayla, for her 21st birthday to Las Vegas, which has become a family tradition for us since my daughter, Lauren, became 21. On Lauren's trip to Vegas, I also didn't go because Tony was sick. And it was like almost the exact same people that took Lauren took Kayla. So it was kind of cool.
It was really cool. And actually it's so crazy because I talked about that with Donovan as a possibility to, we were kind of putting that in the works and planning his 21st. So, it's just kind of weird, but it's awesome that it's a cute little rite of passage for them and that our family gets together to do it.
Well, the part that I love about it is that the adults are actually taking them. It's actually the adults that take the kids and get to spend this time with them.
Right.
Yeah. The rite of passage is kind of fun. Hey, friends, we want to welcome you back to Healing Starts with the Heart. We are so excited that you're here. This is a show that's about and for you, the griever, and your broken heart. Erica and I were grievers first, and we trained and became grief specialists, and now we walk with hundreds of grievers this process of getting to the healing that they truly need in their heart.
I think that's such an important aspect of doing this work is that we were grievers first. So although we don't know exactly how, the people we're meeting feel, we remember that it was really bad for us. We felt really bad when our losses happened. So in that regard, we can relate. We're more relatable, I think, because we know what it feels like to move around with a broken heart.
I feel like we have missed our friends because we haven't been together in so long. So we've missed you guys all. But we have this amazing show scheduled for today. Erica, let's discuss the topic a little bit.
It's the topic today is about grief and spirituality. And so that being said, it's really about acknowledging where people are at in their grieving experience, especially when it comes to their faith, or if they have not had any faith, our friends out there who are atheists, who don't believe in God, we want to let them know that everyone is welcome to our program and what we provide because we honor where they're at in their journey and their spirituality.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that we need to first tell people that we need to love you where you're at. We need to love you where you're at. And the title of this show came up for a specific reason. And one is, most importantly, because we keep getting asked that question. One, people sometimes when they're grieving are looking for a spiritual program. And we love that. But two, there are so many grievers, so many of our friends that start to question their walk, their spiritual walk, their spiritual beliefs, no matter what that is. We see it across the board. And this also brings up this huge question right now in your life of why. And when you start going down the path of why, correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, or tell me what your experience is. When you start to go down the path of why, it's also, what is this all about? Why are we here? Why do I have to experience this? Why did this happen to me? Why did this child get taken from me? Why has my best friend died? Why did I lose my husband? It's like all these questions of why, they start to intertwine with each other.
Well, and it's really sad and thankfully I never allowed myself to go down that rabbit hole, so to speak, because you don't get an answer.
Yeah.
You don't get an answer. And so you're racking your brain, you're, tormenting yourself by trying to come up with the why. And I think for me, after Austin passed away, my experience was so different from then losing Donovan. Was I was still open to the possibility of loving and accepting my faith and embracing the people around me. But after Donovan, that was not the case, because then I was like, all bets are off. I felt betrayed. I felt
Yeah.
betrayed by my faith and in God, and how could he allow not only one of my children to be taken from me, but then two. So yeah, it was, I walked a different path each time. And that's I think the most important message is we have to be open to where people are at so that they can be open to really healing. Because if they have that in the way, it's going to get in the way of their healing.
Well, my experience has been, and I'm going to share something that I have permission to share, is that when Austin died, my 17-year-old daughter, Brittany, could not fathom a God that would allow a 10-year-old child to die. She just couldn't put the two together. It just did not make sense to her. Here is a God that I'm supposed to love and understand, yet my cousin has died. And how do I work with the two? Yet she struggled silently. She didn't share it. She didn't share that that's where she was going to. And we know for a fact, after working with grievers, it is not uncommon for us to have to go back and talk through that and work through that. That's something that each person individually has to work through. Right. They have to work through that. Here's your grief, but here's the part where I'm struggling with my spirituality, that I've always known that I've had this rock and I've always stood on that. Now, I will also share that for me, that was not the case. I came up with the why, and I looked at my two decisions, was either to question it or lean on it. And I personally leaned on it. I leaned on my faith with God because it helped me through, and that's where I was at. But I'm absolutely here to tell you that we do not pray in our program. We do not pray before. We do not pray after. We do not use Bible scriptures, because I don't know where my friends are when they come into the program. I don't know what they need. And so I love the fact that this is not a quote unquote, what do we want to call it, spiritual religious program, because I need that, faith-based. I need that. I need to see where they are first.
Right. And there's also people who don't believe, and that was the way they were raised, without faith, without religion. We need to be open to honoring, their choices and how, they've come through this process, and the fact that God isn't even a factor for them. Yeah. So we absolutely are welcoming, and there's no part of this program that would alienate them or make them feel not comfortable or not welcome.
Absolutely, 100%. So what happens when we work with grievers is we bring them in, and we pretty much handle this subject right in the beginning. I work with a lot of faith-based people that they want to pray and do all of that, do all their spiritual belief programs separately. But this way we're looking just at your heart. We are simply dialing into your relationship with your loved one that you've lost, or any other loss you've had in your life. And then wherever you are with that, we're able to help you with that journey as well.
Right, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That is really, it comes down to the relationship that has left them incomplete. So if there's all these other factors getting in the way of their ability to focus on that, then that hinders their ability to truly heal.
Here's the thing that I think that is so amazing. You and I recently sat with a mom whose son had passed away. And she just sat with us, and through a million tears, she looked at you and I and said, I don't know what I feel right now. That's all she said. I don't know what I feel right now. And you and I both took it as, because we were having a spiritual talk. She felt comfortable enough to say that, and to say it out loud. That's part of the healing process of saying, just like you say with Donovan, all bets were off. What about the person who can't say that? What about the person that's living in a home where it's so spiritually centered that they can't have the safety to say that? And that's what I want to allow people.
Right, because that, I think that for me personally, that's where the betrayal comes in, because you've been raised, if you've been raised in faith, you've been raised to believe God, cures all. God takes care of everything.
Yeah.
God never gives you more than you can handle.
Yeah.
All those little sayings you've been raised with, so that when you get to a point where your heart is so broken, and you're told you're supposed to put that in the hands of God and He's going to cure you, and it's not working, then what? Then what
Right.
do you do? Where do you go? And I feel like that's where the strong conflict comes into play, is I'm praying to God every single day,
Yeah.
and I don't feel better.
It's sometimes what I tell my clients when they share that with us, just like this woman that is so, I mean, this family is so endowed in their church, and that grief and the pain of grief can separate us from our walk, no matter what that is. The pain of grief can separate us from our walk. Then we start questioning our own self, right? Because it hurts so bad. And you're right, He was supposed to be here to save me and change it. Yet, you and I get a lot of people that are like, I'm walking with God, this is helping me, this is totally, more power to you, but we want to be here for that. There's another aspect, Erica, and I want to take a step back, is that when I was at that moment of fog and not knowing where I was going, and I went into the church, this is my own personal experience, I went into the church, my heart is absolutely broken. Austin had just died. And one of the things that I was first told was God will never give you more than you can handle, and that I should pray about it. And I literally picked my heads up and I looked at her, and that didn't feel comforting at that one moment. At that very moment, it wasn't comforting.
Just like there's so much misinformation out there about, stages and you have to keep busy, that is one that is said over and over, is God will never give you more than you can handle. And for me, I was willing to accept it at the time of Austin's passing, but because I was so angry when Donovan passed away, I wanted to challenge that and say, how do you know?
Yeah.
Who told you?
Yeah.
Because right now this feels unbearable.
Yeah.
This feels like I can't get out of bed. This feels like I want to die.
Yeah.
I want to die because it's so painful. So who's the judge on whether or not this is something I can handle or not? In that moment, that's how bad you feel. So we need to, if anything comes out of today's podcast, encourage our friends to stop saying that to people.
Absolutely. And that's where I want to go back to. Knowing now, when I looked at her, I can still remember having this conversation. I can remember when I was standing. And all I knew was that didn't feel right, and it didn't feel comforting. Knowing now what I know, it would have been so much different if she would have said, I have no idea what you're going through. Can I give you a hug? Because what we find happens is that a lot of us that go to, where do we go when we have pain and brokenness? We always go to our friends and our family and our spiritual center, right? So I went there, but I wasn't getting what I needed. But yet again, I want to tell you guys, I didn't know what I needed. At that point, I didn't know what I needed. And that's why it didn't feel comforting. The one thing that you can say, I don't care if you're in the church building or not, I have no idea what this feels like. Can I give you a hug right now? I'm here for you. Do you need a place to talk? We know that grievers want to talk, and they want to talk a lot. They need to get it out because their brain and their heart are in conflict. And part of them wanting to talk is just for you to listen to them. Spilling back a scripture or spilling back advice like that is not helpful at that time. And I think I'm sort of holding back because I know we're going to get a lot of flack from this podcast. And I want to tell everyone that is walking their spiritual walk, whatever it may be, more power to you. And if that's where you're finding your comfort and your healing, I love it. But there are a lot of us out there like me and like my daughter Brittany that didn't have that, and like Erica. And we have to give them that space. And let's be okay with that.
And absolutely 100%, because, and I want to say, for someone who thinks that, they're very strong in their faith and they're very strong in their beliefs, but still are not getting the fulfillment or the healing or the comfort that they're needing from their church family, it doesn't mean that you don't believe enough. It doesn't mean that you're not praying hard enough. It doesn't mean that your faith is less than because your heart is broken and you're not getting the healing that you need from going to church every Sunday. That is not a question about your faith. Like you said, it is a separate journey. It is something totally different. When you experience a grieving event and your heart is shattered into a million pieces, it has nothing to do with your belief, your faith. It has to do with how you feel in your heart. And like you and I have talked about a lot, grief doesn't happen here. Grief happens here in our heart. We need to allow ourselves to feel the feelings. We need to acknowledge the feelings. We need to be able to verbalize the pain in true form and fashion. And that doesn't make us less than.
Exactly.
It makes us human.
And there's one more aspect to this that I absolutely love, and that is this. I work with a lot of believers that come in from all different faiths, right? So I work with a lot of believers. But a lot of times when they want to go and share what their struggle is, something may be going on in their marriage that's a loss. Something may be going on with some of their beliefs in their own brain, whatever it may be. They need a safe place to talk. And because I'm not sitting there, let's say, using scripture, I give them a safe place to talk and share, and they can say whatever that is, and then we can deal with it, and they can grieve it and lose it. And there's so many, and shed it off, and then they can go back to their personal walk. And I love that I give them, that they can come into my office and share whatever that is.
Right. And sometimes their personal walk in their faith is the relationship that they need to work on.
Yeah.
That is the area where
Yeah.
they're not complete.
Yeah.
So that is important to acknowledge and share that that's okay. It's okay that that happens, because what you're going to do is realize that that's where you have the breakdown.
Yeah.
Do the work to complete that relationship and be better for it.
What about, and I agree, I'm so glad that you said that, because there are people that many times say to me, I'm really mad. I'm mad at God. I'm mad at so-and-so in the church. I'm mad at my pastor. I'm mad at my priest. He gave me this bit of advice. And I'm upset. I don't even want to talk to them again. Where do they go with that? Where do you go with that grief and that loss?
Right. You know, especially if, you know, that person has let you down. If if it's been discovered that they're living a less than faith life, as we've seen in the media, things happen. So then what do you do?
Yeah.
You know, you're the person you put all this love and trust in has then the human person has betrayed you. So that's sometimes very much a struggle. And people need the freedom to be able to work through those relationships.
The other part that I love is that you and I don't bring our own personal beliefs into the conversation. Right. That's the most important part. We don't bring our own personal beliefs, our own personal walk. We love you where you're at. We show you the steps through an educational program to get where you need to be. That's it. It's simply that. We're not judging you, and we don't want you judging us. That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of this. Everyone is welcome wherever they're at, because we want to get to the center of your pain and we want to help heal your broken heart. That's the bottom line.
And I think we need to end right there, because that was a perfect ending to a great show. Guys, listen to our podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud. Erica, tell our guests about how they can get a mini session with us and what kind of a mini session is.
Yes, you can find a schedule on our website, which is healingstartswiththeheart.com. And if you're interested, there's a click option, and you basically are scheduling yourself for a phone call. We could do it like this with the camera, where we do a Zoom. It's an app that we use, or we could just do direct line if you're not comfortable with that. And we just have a conversation and really try to connect with you, give you an opportunity to get to know us and see where you're at and which one of our programs would be best for you.
Thank you, my friends. Let's share our grief. Let's you and I get together and share our grief. We know that grievers need to talk. Call us. We're here for you. I'm telling you, 10 minutes with us could change your day, that day. Just getting a chance to blow off some steam. Thank you for allowing us to come in for this next few minutes. Keep all of your hate mail to yourself. We don't want to hear it. And we will see you.
Positive vibes only.
What is that?
Positive vibes only.
We'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.
Bye, friends.
Bye.